name's Jay. Welcome. If you don't know, Healthy Minds Innovations is a nonprofit aiming to translate the latest science of well-being into practical, actionable, true tools to benefit individuals and organizations. So that includes an app, that includes our upcoming masterclass, and that includes also live streaming meditations like this one. And this month, we're doing a little bit of a timely theme. Oh, I'm hearing sound issues. Can you hear me now? Is that a little bit better? Thank you for commenting. Okay, great. So anyway, we're doing a theme on untangling the news, which is a very difficult thing to untangle. What comes to mind is kind of like when you look in your drawer with electronics in it and all the old electronics you haven't looked at in a long time show up, and they're all just completely wrapped and tangled, and it's just feels like maybe I should just put this down. But when it comes to the news, I feel like we can't put it down. Number one, it's everywhere around us. And number two, we sort of have a responsibility as a citizen, as a global citizen, and as a citizen of the country that we live in to tune in and to stay informed. And that's getting harder and harder in today's attention economy, where everyone is competing to have the viral headline. And so everything is put in very extreme terms. And so we're going to do a little bit of a practice that helps balance that. But before we do that, I think it's important to consider that this is a very new thing. Certainly news is not a new concept. But if you think back, maybe let's say before the 19th century, news was local and it was slow. You heard about what was happening in the village nearby, in the town nearby, in the city nearby, and maybe weeks after something happens, you're hearing about what's happening in your country, and maybe months or even years later, you're hearing what's happening on the other side of the world. And then in the 19th century, there was a big change. And I know sometimes it feels like the big change is happening now with smartphones and social media, but I actually think one of the biggest changes was in the middle of the 19th century when the telegraph was invented. All of a sudden, we had laid pipelines from London to New York, and journalists overnight could get information about what's happening on the other side of the world. And they were laying the foundation not only for the telegraph, but they basically laid the foundation for the modern news environment, which is now at hyperspeed, hyper-competitive, sensationalized, and very, very, very challenging. At the same time, we don't want to disconnect entirely, especially if we live in a democratic country, because it's up to the people to keep an eye on what's going on. So it's a very, very complex situation. And the practice we're going to do today is we're going to start by getting a little bit of that nurturing of reminding ourselves of the beauty that exists in the world, and reminding ourselves that not everything is what's happening on the news. And sometimes we just need that to replenish our energy and to disconnect from what's going on in the world so that we can show up fully when we have been re-energized and recharged and we're ready. And what tends to happen with the modern news cycle is that there's a new catastrophe, a new crisis, new moral outrage every hour. And we never take a moment for ourselves to recharge the batteries. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to untangle the news a little bit by recharging the batteries. And then at the very end of the practice, we're going to step back in and experiment what that might feel like to step in with a sense of awareness and a sense of connection. So I hope this is useful for you. Hello, everyone. I see you in the chat. We're going to do some chatting a little after, because I'll be very curious to hear what this experience is like for you. So look out for that later. For now, let's find a comfortable position. Whatever feels natural for you. Whatever feels calm and restful, yet awake and alert. And find that position. You might be used to that because you do practices like this all the time, in which case, go for it. If you're newer to these practices, first of all, you should know everything I'm saying is optional, and you're more than welcome to just sit back and relax and listen and just sort of check this thing out. And if you do want to lean in, I recommend bringing that spine upright. So even if you're on a chair, lifting yourself up off the back of the chair, the way I'm doing right now. If you're on a cushion, you can sit upright and raise. I like to raise the back of the head a little bit just to open up the spine. And once you've got that position, hold that upright spine, but let go of the tension. So loosening the face, letting go of the jaw, the shoulders, letting the hands gently rest in the lap. Noticing your contact with the chair or the cushion, noticing your feet on the ground, just connecting with the body and settling in. Taking a moment to just get settled. There's no need to rush into anything here. We're going to practice for about 10 minutes. So we'll have some space. So no need to rush. If you typically like to close your eyes, you're more than welcome to do so. Or if you want to leave them open, I recommend a gentle gaze. Maybe picking a single spot to focus on. To rest your gaze there. Now, when it comes to the news and the global context and the situation, there tends to be a lot of polarization. And so we're going to explore that a little bit by first focusing, before we get into the world that we live in, focusing on the beauty that lies within the world first. So what I want you to do first is bring to mind a mental image that exemplifies beauty for you. It might be a person, a place, or a thing. Could be an individual who you feel has utmost integrity and someone you care about, someone you love. It might be a place that you find incessantly beautiful. You might just imagine yourself there now. Or it might be a thing, something symbolic or something literal, something human-made or something natural. Could be a tree, a living thing. Could be a statue or a memento. Could even be a fictional character. And once you've got something, I want you to try to hold that mental image in your mind with absolute clarity, like it's in high definition, noticing all the little details and letting yourself be consumed by that beauty. And if you're having trouble finding something, you might just go for something obvious, like a beautiful sunset or a view that you particularly enjoy, or someone you care about in an uncomplicated way. Continue to mentally picture this exemplar of beauty and notice how your body feels as you do that. Notice your embodied response to beauty. You might notice a change in posture or a change in the quality of your breathing or your heart, or even just a sense of emotion or spaciousness. Or maybe you notice nothing in your body. That's fine as well. just continuing to practice and really trying to clarify the experience of beauty in as pure a way as you possibly can in this moment. We'll do this for another minute or two. I'll leave you some space to really get into it. Again, high definition and clarity. Sometimes it can be very enriching to just remind ourselves that there is beauty in the world, especially when we live with so much noise, so much conflict, so many stories being told, to remind ourselves that that individual or that place, that scene, or that object that you're imagining right now still exists, and it's still as beautiful as it ever was. And when you're ready, I want you to take some of this momentum you've built up and carry it forward as we delicately step into reflecting on the state of the world. You might go for the entire earth, or you might go for the country that you live in, or even the municipality, something more local. But bringing that sense of beauty and seeing if you can find some beauty despite all the chaos and all the stories being told on one side, on the other. Is there some example of beauty that you're now calibrated to see? One example might be that people care, that whatever issue has come to mind for you, you might notice that there are lots of people who care about that issue and want to do something about it. Natural compassion expressing itself. You might also notice that those who might disagree with your values also care. And even if that's coming in a different way, that they care too. That there's some beauty there to be found, even amidst the fact that they might not be aligned with you. See if you can take this moment to offer a little bit of love and respect for that beauty. If this is tricky, it might help to maintain a sense of distance from your own thinking by staying openly aware of your thoughts and reflections as they proceed. So noticing what seems to naturally come up when I issue these prompts with a sense of curiosity. That's what I'm thinking about. That's the issue that came up. And if you're having a hard time finding beauty in this way, in the state of the world, that's perfectly normal and perfectly understandable. It can be very difficult. Notice that. Just bring that curiosity forward as to the challenge of this reflection and the path that now lies ahead of you to see if you can find that beauty and what you might do in your own life to find an access point for that beauty, to bring it back into your regular awareness in everyday life. And for this last minute, I want you to reflect on what we've just done and see if you can come up with one positive thing that you can do in your life despite all that's going on. Something that's within your control, something that's in your circle, in your immediate surroundings, whether that's people around you or places around you. One thing that you can do that might contribute a little bit more of this beauty into your mind and into the minds of those you care about, into the world. It might be a kind act. It might be cleaning up something and doing a little interior design to make your living room look beautiful for the other people you live with. Or it might be going for a walk and just filling your mind with nature and trees. But just try to set an intention for this last minute. One thing you can do to bring more beauty to the world, whether that world is the world inside your mind or the world around you. Okay, great. Nice work, everyone. I know that's a tricky one to step into the state of the world. So I'm here for you. If anything came up that you want to address, please share it in the chat. And I'll invite actually everyone to share in the chat now. A little bit of what came up for you. You might want to share that source of beauty that we tapped into in the first half of the practice, or maybe the action you set an intention to do to bring more beauty into the world. And while you share in the chat, just a word about the practice we just did. So in general, when we think about the state of the world, we think about the pandemic, or we think about the climate, or we think about the upcoming election, or in the US, anything like that. It can be very, very triggering and challenging. And we can kind of get numb to that if we're looking at it all the time. It just feels like that becomes the way things are. This is life now. Life is triggering, and I just have to deal with it. But we forget that in every little detail, in every little moment, there are opportunities to unlock and to disconnect from all that, and unlock and remind ourselves of the beauty that exists all around us. And all it takes is to go look at a tree, or to go for a walk, or to really look and make eye contact with someone you care about. You can refresh and recharge. And it's really, really important that you don't drown yourself in all this information, especially when it's all trying to pull your attention in different ways. In my own viewpoint, it's actually almost a political act to remember to disconnect sometimes, just as much as it's a political act to step in and take action and vote, and other ways to contribute and talk to people and have a civil discourse. So there's always that opportunity to recharge your batteries, and no matter how intense things get, it really is important to make room for that. And I find accessing things that have naturally seemed to bring me beauty is a wonderful way to do that. Just taking a look at the chat here. Hi, Christine. I thought of the beauty of the ocean in California. I miss it. I live in Wisconsin now. Loving the fall colors. Yeah, it's funny. Being near the water is something that's so beautiful. And I know my wife really, it's like gets so much energy from that. And she sort of taught me to do that as well. But there is also beauty in a tree, and there is beauty in the city even. And I think one of the things that I've been working on getting more sensitized to is being able to tap into the beauty everywhere. I mean, it's not all going to be the ocean in California, but there is beauty in a surprisingly large number of places. One might say there's beauty everywhere, including a beautiful bridge in Paris. Thank you, Robert. Paris is one of my most favorite places on earth. It's like, there are places you go where there's like a beautiful touristy area and the rest of it is just a city. Paris is like the entire place is a work of art. It's beautiful. Rose thought of people lining up to vote early. Yes, what a beautiful example of just, no matter how chaotic this is going, people do care. People are lining up. They're taking time out of their lives. Like, it's hard enough to exercise every day. It's so hard to get people to act, right? But to see how many people are really trying to vote in we're talking about the American election, I'm assuming, but in general, to vote early, it's just, it's heartening to remember that people care. Jose, a genuine smile with my eye muscles in spite of world events going on at the moment, feeling compassion toward myself. Wonderful. Thank you. David feels the word beauty can be overwhelming to me, too aesthetic. What a great noticing, David. I love to hear that, because that might feel like a blocker for you. But to me, the fact that you notice that is, that is such a great opportunity for inquiry. So I would encourage you, David, to look into that. Why is that word overwhelming? One approach might be to find another word, something that brings joy to your heart, or, if you want something less woo-woo, something that you feel a natural affinity to. But there also might be something exploring, why is that word beauty so challenging? Why is it overwhelming for you? What is it about that word and its connotations? It might be something really worth exploring. Jess, be considerate, be polite, tell jokes, and laugh with friends. Yes, so much beauty in the simple things. Thank you, everyone. Jose, beauty in my nephew's childhood. Yeah, I've got a little 1-year-old. You might have heard him in the background. So throughout this chaotic year, he's been just an incredible source of joy for us. Also a lot of work without any childcare support, but wonderful, wonderful. I was visualizing being in a warm cave, sitting next to a fire with beautiful snow falling in a white, snowy Himalayan mountain. Wow. Thank you. I think that's something to leave it on. I'm going to read that again. Visualizing being in a warm cave, sitting next to a fire with beautiful snow falling in a white, snowy Himalayan mountain. Yeah, we can all go there a little bit. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So have a lovely day. I hope this was recharging for you. I hope this is a tool that you can add to your toolkit. My philosophy with this stuff is always take the best and leave the rest. So if this didn't work so well for you, that's totally fine. And I hope you have a lovely day. We're doing these Healthy Mind sessions every week. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you next week. And don't hesitate to send questions on my Twitter or anything like that if you want to follow up. Okay, take care.